In modern entertainment, realism is highly praised. The main tradition of Western aesthetics adopts the view that art imitates nature. This goes way back. Paintings from the early Renaissance to the late 19th century pursued this ideal with ever-increasing success. Novels, like those by Tolstoy or Balzac, provided a detailed representation of society, as did plays, like those by Ibsen and Chekhov. The camera eclipsed these achievements because the motion picture has a unique ability to represent nature. Theorists like André Bazin argued that the goal of cinema was to represent the world with the greatest commitment to realism. He advocated wide shots, long takes, camera at eye level, and limited editing. This served to create the illusion that the audience was a person observing the events. Another theorist, Krakauer, expanded the discussion. He described two main tendencies, realism and formalism. Realism began with the Lumiere brothers, while formalism, which has no interest in imitating reality, was championed by Georges Méliès. Méliès' cinema of attractions, as Thomas Gunning describes it, was exhibitionist and bared a lack of concern for creating a self-sufficient narrative world. Classical cinema falls in the middle of the realist-formalist scale. In classical form, the narrative is causal, the narration is omniscient, the space is coherent, and the editing is invisible. Attention isn't drawn to filmmaking, and narration is prioritized, but will still use formalist components like non-diegetic music. All you have to do is look at what movies and actors get awarded nowadays. It seems that believability, which is often equated to realism, is very admirable. Often, the goal is for the audience to get so involved in the story that they forget they're watching a film. In particular, actors get awarded for being as believable as possible, especially if they go through transformations, like weight loss or weight gain, or if they're playing a real person. Actors want spectators to forget they're acting and instead buy that they're the character, at least for the duration of the film. My interest is in analyzing how realism as a fictional documentary style affects the credibility and impact on audience of No Lies. No Lies is a 1973 short film by Mitchell Bloch. Shot in documentary style, specifically like a cinema verite interview, the film portrays a woman recounting how she was raped. No Lies is hyper-realistic. The actor who holds the camera pretends to be a young filmmaker. Many things about the way it was shot make it extremely believable. For instance, the actor shows himself holding the camera in the mirror. There is very minimal editing. I was only able to notice one cut, and it is barely noticeable. The lighting is naturalistic, and at moments the actors are in complete darkness. The actors acknowledge the camera several times. The male actor says, "This is cinema verite, the universities are paying for it." And the girl says, "Leave the camera here and you can come with us."
Take a picture of me changing my necklace.
This is cinema verite. And besides, the university's paying for the...
Oh, they're paying for it, no wonder.
Right.
Well, do you want to go to the show with us? I mean, you can go if you want.
Well, I gotta wrap up this stuff.
We'll leave the camera here and you can go with us. People want me over.
She breaks the fourth wall. It feels like a home movie. By the end of the film, it can be shocking to learn that it is fiction. In this case, instead of praising the filmmaker or the actors for being so realistic, people tend to be outraged at the film. There's a strong sentiment of deception. I argue that while realism is generally praised, it is only so if it is presented in the style of a fictional film. People are extremely uncomfortable with fictional films that deal with serious subjects, but shoot in the style of a documentary. In fact, it is more common to see mockumentaries that are comedies. Film critic Vivian Schauback penned an essay called No Lies, Direct Cinema as Rape, where she says that cinematically, No Lies also demonstrates and commits rape. To her, the viewer is an unwary, unprepared victim of an aggressive assault on one's person, on one's pride, and on one's expectations. The spectator feels stupid for being susceptible to Bloch's trickery. This feeling of revolt is meant to mirror the experience of rape to a much smaller degree. In my opinion, this is very effective in causing an impact on the audience. The feeling of revolt the spectator feels for being tricked increases the already present feeling of revolt towards the rape itself and the way the male actor deals with it. First, she was raped. Then we see how the male character doubts her. And finally, we learn that we were fooled.
What do you want? There's nothing that you can do.
Are you sure?
How more sure that I could be? I asked the college, there's nothing they can do. I mean, there's,
Are you sure it happened at all?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you, I don't know, it just sounds like it's something that just, it's unreal. You're not really doing anything about it.
It was real. Believe me, it was real. I mean, it happened, believe me. And there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, you know.
Maybe you just don't want to do anything about it. I mean, would it be embarrassing to push it on? And it's not worth it?
Why is it embarrassing? I mean, you know, there's nothing embarrassing about it.
Well,
I can't be embarrassed about it. It happened. There's nothing. I'm not embarrassed. I told you. Question of, I can't do
You're just
anything
sure that you can't do anything about it then? I mean, you're just going to say that it happened?
It happened. I mean, what am I going to say?
And that's it? You're going to forget about it? How can you forget about it? You think you can?
I think I can forget about it, yeah. I'd like to forget about it. Yeah, I'm going to try to forget about it. There's nothing else I can do.
That's just too much of a resigned attitude for me to believe.
I don't care if it's a resigned attitude.
I don't know. If you're so willing to accept it and take it, it just...
I'm not so willing to accept it.
Yes, you are.
How? There's nothing else. Well, I don't understand what you're saying to me. There's nothing else that I can do.
What I'm saying is that it makes it look like it wasn't really a rape, or it wasn't so much of a rape. Maybe it started out that way, but you just don't.
What do you call a rape? What do you think a rape is?
I don't really know what a rape is because I've never done it and I've never been. But I think that from what
A rape is when somebody shoves you down on the ground. A rape is when somebody steps on you and says, "You do what I want you to do, or I'm going to stick a knife in your throat." A rape is when you get your back broken on the sidewalk with some guy smashing your back into the sidewalk. That's what a rape is. A rape is the reality of cops coming in and humiliating you and telling you it was your fault because you took a f***ing shower after it happened. That's what a rape is. You want to know what a rape is? You'll never know what a rape is. You'll never know what a rape is. So how can I explain it to you? There's just no way of explaining it to you.
The cumulative effect, in my opinion, makes for a more powerful viewing experience. I believe that realism as a fictional documentary style adds to the momentary credibility of No Lies, which in turn makes it more impactful. Of course, No Lies is not cinema verite, but it pretends to be so. Cinema verite is not about minimal intervention. In Chronicle of a Film, Moran argues that the camera is used to reach a human truth not otherwise accessible. His objective was to capture the human condition. He wasn't neglecting the presence of a camera. Instead, he was working with it, creating a dialogue. The camera elicits truth. Rothman elaborates on this idea, speaking of cinema verite and how it tells the truth by lying. Rothman says that the very acting of not looking at a camera on purpose inadvertently acknowledges that there is a camera there. But in trying to pretend to be an object, the person reveals themselves as a subject because it takes a self to act. It takes a self to mask itself. In this process, the camera also participates in the lie. When describing a scene in Chronicles of a Summer, Rothman says, "We're embarrassed because we feel we're intruding, but it's also when we're completely caught up." This feeling of intrusion is very much present in No Lies. It is what draws the audience in. Now that special effects and CGI have come into our dialogue, it is even harder to accept that a film has the ability to act as a fly on the wall and capture the truth. Theorist Linda Williams says that the motion picture is no longer a mirror with a memory, illustrating the visual truth of objects, person, and events, but a manipulated construction. In an era of electronic and computer-generated images, the camera, the article sensationally proclaims, can lie. Instead of careening between idealistic faith in documentary truth and cynical recourse to fiction, we do better to define a documentary not as an essence of truth, but as a set of strategies designed to choose from among a horizon of relative and contingent truths. As an actor, I get told in class that it is important to really feel the emotions you're portraying. Since I have this training and background, I don't care that the female actor isn't no lies or acting. The woman really cried, and to me, those tears are just as real as tears that weren't manipulated. In sum, the realism as a fictional documentary style demonstrated in mise-en-scène and performance heightens the power and impact of no lies. To me, filmmaking is about authenticity, not truth. And No Lies is certainly authentic, portraying a poetic truth.